My daughter-in-law took my grandkids away on Christmas, so I'd be alone. The one person who is supposed to be family makes sure I spend the most important holiday of the year sitting alone in a silent house, staring at wrapped presents that no little hands tear open that morning. Hi, my name is Carol. I am 71 years old and I live in a small but cozy house in Columbus, Ohio. I have lived here for almost 40 years now. This house has seen birthdays, holidays, first steps, graduation parties, and more love than I can ever measure. I work as a school librarian for 34 years before I retire 6 years ago. I love every single day of that job. Watching children discover the magic of reading, helping them find stories that make their eyes light up, it fills my heart in ways I cannot even put into words. When I retire, my colleagues throw me the most beautiful little party. They make a cake shaped like an open book, and everyone signs a card that I still keep on my nightstand to this day. After retirement, I settle into a quiet but happy routine. I tend my garden in the warmer months, I bake on Sundays, I video call my sister in Arizona every Tuesday evening, and most importantly, I spend as much time as I possibly can with my grandchildren. I have 2 grandchildren. A boy named Elijah, who is 9 years old, and a girl named Rosie, who just turned 6. They are the light of my entire life. Truly. When I see their faces, my heart does something it cannot do for anything else in this world. They call me Grandma Carol, and they run to hug me every single time they see me like they have not seen me in years, even if it has only been a week. That kind of love is something no amount of money or status or success can ever buy. It is pure and it is real, and it is the most precious thing I own. My house on Maple Street is the one with the green shutters and the wind chime on the porch that my husband hangs the summer before he gets sick. I never take it down. On windy days it plays a soft little song, and I sit on the porch and listen, and I think of him. The neighbors on my street know me well after 40 years. Old Mr. Henderson next door waves every morning when I collect the paper. The young family across the street, a couple with 3 small children, they stop and talk to me sometimes when I am in the garden, and the littlest one, a girl about Rosie's age, she calls me the Flower Lady, and I think that is perhaps the finest title I have ever been given in my life. This neighborhood is my world in a very real way. Every crack in the sidewalk is familiar to me. Every tree along the road I have watched grow from a sapling. I belong here, and this place belongs to me, and that sense of rootedness matters more than I realize until the years when everything else feels uncertain. When I think about my life here in Columbus, I feel genuinely grateful for the simplicity of it. My house is not large, but every single room carries a feeling of warmth that I built over decades. The kitchen smells like vanilla and cinnamon most mornings because I bake before the rest of the neighborhood is even awake. My front porch has 2 rocking chairs and a little table where I drink my coffee every morning no matter the season, even in the colder months when I have to wrap myself in a thick blanket and watch the frost on the grass slowly melt. My backyard garden is my therapy and my pride. I grow tomatoes, cucumbers, peppers, herbs, sunflowers, and in the spring the whole yard looks like something from a painting. Neighbors walk by and stop to admire it, and that simple thing makes me happy in a way that surprises me every time. My cat Chester, an old gray tabby who is almost as stubborn as I am, follows me from room to room all day like a little shadow. I talk to him, and he blinks at me slowly, and I think that is just about the most peaceful relationship I have ever had with another living creature. I retired 6 years ago after 34 years as a school librarian, and people always ask me if I miss it. The answer is yes, every single day. Not in a painful way, but in the way you miss a place that shapes you. I spend those 34 years surrounded by children who are just beginning to discover that books can take you places your feet may never go. I watch shy children become confident readers. I watch lonely children find friends inside the pages of stories. I watch curious children become young thinkers and leaders. I have a hand in that, even a small one, and that means everything to me. When I retire, the entire school turns out for a little farewell gathering in the library. The children make me cards. The teachers bring food. The principal gives a speech that makes me cry and laugh at the same time. I drive home that last afternoon with a car full of flowers and framed photos and a heart so full it nearly hurts. Even now on quiet mornings when Chester is curled on the windowsill and the sun is coming through the curtains and I have my coffee in both hands, I think about those children. I wonder how many of them still read. I hope all of them do. I think about my husband often during all of this. His name is Robert, and he is the kind of man who makes everyone in a room feel like the most important person there. He coaches Marcus's Little League team for 3 seasons. He plants the first rose bush in our backyard and teaches me to care for it. He brings me coffee every morning before I even get out of bed and sets it on the nightstand with a little note sometimes, just something small and simple, something like "Good morning, beautiful day" or "Thinking of you." He passes 12 years ago after a long illness, and I still reach for him sometimes in the small reflexive moments of ordinary life. When I see something funny I want to share, or when I need someone to sit beside me in the quiet. He is not here to see his grandchildren growing up, and I think that is one of the great sorrows of my life. But I carry him into every moment I spend with Elijah and Rosie. I tell them about their grandfather. I show them photos. I keep him alive in that small but important way that grandmothers do. My son Marcus is 43 years old. He is a good man at his core. I raise him the best I can after his father passes when Marcus is only 17. It is just the two of us for a long time and we go through a great deal together. Losing his father changes Marcus in ways that take years to fully understand. He becomes quieter, more serious, more driven. He pours himself into his studies, and I pour myself into making sure he never feels alone even when the grief is sitting on both of us like a weight we cannot put down. I watch him grow from a grieving teenager into a hardworking, decent man. He becomes an engineer. He buys a nice house. He works hard, and I am proud of him every step of the way. There are many nights during those years when it is just Marcus and me at the dinner table, and I look at him across the plates and think that whatever else goes wrong in this life, I get this right. I raise a good person. That matters more than anything. Those quiet dinners, just the two of us, with the television on low in the background and Marcus doing his homework at one end of the table while I grade papers at the other. Those are some of the most important evenings of my life, even though nothing remarkable ever happens during them. Just two people loving each other quietly through a hard time. Then about 11 years ago, he meets Linda. Linda comes into his life quickly and things move fast. Within a year, they are engaged. Within 2 years, they are married. I try from the very beginning to have a good relationship with her. I bring food to their home when they first move in together. I offer help whenever I can. I stay out of their decisions and their arguments, because I know that is not my place. I respect their space. I smile at every holiday and every birthday and every family dinner, even when the tension in the room is something you can almost touch with your hands. But Linda never warms to me. Not really. She is polite enough in front of Marcus, but there is always something underneath her politeness that feels cold. Like she is simply tolerating me because she has to. I tell myself I am probably imagining it. I tell myself I am being too sensitive. I tell myself that some people simply take longer to open up, and that one day Linda and I will find our footing and everything will be fine. That day never comes. And after enough years pass, I stop waiting for it. There is a sadness in that. I want to love Linda and I want her to love me back, not for my sake alone but for Marcus and for those children. A family that loves each other well is the greatest gift you can give to the next generation. I live that truth every day of my own upbringing and my marriage. So yes, I grieve a little for the relationship Linda and I never build. But grief and surrender are not the same, and I never confuse them. There is one afternoon I still think about sometimes. It is early in Marcus and Linda's marriage, maybe 6 months after the wedding. I bring over a pot of soup because Linda mentions she is not feeling well. I stand on their porch with this big pot of homemade chicken soup, and Linda opens the door and looks at me for a long moment before she smiles and takes the pot. She does not invite me in. She says thank you and she closes the door. I stand on the porch for a moment in the cold, and I think maybe she is just tired or not feeling well enough for company. I make excuses for her. I always make excuses for her. I drive home and I tell myself it is nothing. But it is something. Looking back now, I understand that it is the first of 100 small moments that together add up to a very clear message. I am not wanted in that house. But I keep showing up because those grandchildren are my heart, and I am not willing to let someone else's coldness separate me from them. There is a birthday party for Elijah when he turns 7 that I think about often. I arrive with a gift I spend 2 weeks choosing, a beautiful set of building blocks and art supplies because Elijah loves to create things with his hands. I ring the doorbell and Linda opens the door and looks at me and says, "Oh, I thought Marcus told you. We are keeping this one just close friends, kids from his class and their parents." I look past her into the living room and I can see balloons and streamers and a table full of food and children running everywhere. Marcus is standing near the window and he catches my eye and he looks away. I smile at Linda and I say, "Of course, I completely understand. I will just leave this gift for him," and I hand her the wrapped present and I turn around and I walk back to my car and I drive home. I sit in my car in my own driveway for almost an hour before I can make myself go inside. When I finally walk through my front door, Chester comes to greet me and I pick him up and I just hold him for a while. I never tell Marcus how I feel about that day. I never bring it up. I keep the peace. I always keep the peace. That is what I do, and I do it so well that everyone around me forgets that there is a price attached to keeping it. Over the years, things between Linda and me grow more strained rather than less. Small things begin adding up. She starts limiting how often I can see the grandchildren. In the beginning, it is every weekend, then it becomes every other weekend, then it becomes once a month if I am lucky. Every time I question it gently, Marcus tries to smooth things over and says Linda is just busy or stressed or that things will get better soon. I believe him because I want to believe him. I do not want to see what is right in front of me. She makes comments. Little ones. Things said in passing that are designed to sting without leaving a mark. She says things like, "Oh, I did not think you would remember," or "Are you sure you are feeling up to watching them? They're a lot of energy for someone your age." She says these things with a smile on her face and a light tone in her voice, so that if Marcus overhears it sounds like casual conversation. But I know what it is. And she knows I know. And neither of us ever says it out loud. I smile and nod and go home and sit with the hurt quietly because I do not want to cause problems for Marcus or upset the grandchildren. I keep the peace. I always keep the peace. And the peace keeps costing me more than I can afford. Last Christmas is the one I need to tell you about. The one that changes everything. In October of last year, Marcus calls me and tells me they are planning to spend Christmas at Linda's parents' house in Vermont. He says they will be leaving on the 23rd and coming back on the 28th. He says it in such a casual way, like it is the most normal thing, like I have not spent every single Christmas with my grandchildren since the day Elijah is born. I am quiet for a moment. I ask him if we can at least celebrate together on the 22nd before they leave. He says he will check with Linda. I already know what that means. It means no. 3 days later, he calls back and says Linda feels the 22nd is too hectic with all the packing and preparation, and that they need that day to get organized. He is apologetic. He says they will make it up to me when they get back. He says maybe they can do a little belated Christmas celebration in early January. I say okay. I say it is fine. I say to tell the kids I love them. Then I hang up the phone and I sit in my kitchen for a very long time without moving. Chester jumps up on the table and presses his head against my hand, and I just sit there in the quiet with my hand on my cat and the phone face down on the table and the hum of the refrigerator the only sound in the room. I want you to understand what Christmas means to me. After my husband passes, it is the one time of year that reminds me most powerfully of what we build together. The decorations in my house are things we collect over 30 years of marriage. The little wooden nativity scene on the mantel is his mother's. The red and gold garland on the banister is something he and Marcus put up together the last Christmas, before he gets sick. Every ornament on my tree has a memory attached to it. The glass bluebird near the top is from our first Christmas as a married couple. The little knitted star is something Marcus makes in 2nd grade and presents to me with the most serious and proud expression on his tiny face. The silver bells near the bottom branches are ones my husband picks up at a market during a trip we take together for our 20th anniversary. Every single one of these things carries a piece of him and a piece of us, and when I put them up each year, I feel like the house is full again, even when it is not. Christmas without family is not Christmas. It is just a cold day in December surrounded by decorations that remind you of everyone you have lost. I have been holding myself together with the hope that my grandchildren will be there, that I will hear them tearing open presents, that I will make my cinnamon rolls and watch their faces when I bring the tray out in the morning. That is what I am living for that season. And Linda takes it away. Not because of a family emergency. Not because of something unavoidable. She takes it away because she wants to, and because she can. I spend the days leading up to Christmas trying to hold myself together. I still decorate the whole house even though no one is coming. I put up every ornament. I hang the garland on the banister. I put the wooden nativity on the mantle. I wrap presents for Elijah and Rosie even though I know they will not open them on Christmas morning. I bake the cinnamon rolls on Christmas Eve and leave them covered on the counter for the next morning. I do all of this because stopping feels like surrender and I am not ready to surrender Christmas. Not yet. They leave on the 23rd. Marcus sends me a text that says, "Merry Christmas, Mom, we will call you on Christmas morning." He does not call. I sit by my phone on Christmas morning with my cinnamon rolls on the table going cold and the gifts I wrap for Elijah and Rosie sitting under the tree and I wait. By 11 in the morning there is no call. By noon there is nothing. I send a text saying Merry Christmas hoping you all are having a wonderful time. No response until almost 4 in the afternoon when Marcus sends back a thumbs up. A thumbs up. On Christmas Day. To his mother who is sitting alone. I look at that little image on my screen for a long time. I think about all the Christmases before. I think about Marcus at age 8 tearing into his presents with this wild, joyful energy that fills the whole room. I think about his father standing in the kitchen doorway drinking coffee and laughing, and the smell of the pine tree and the sound of Christmas music playing softly from the old radio on the counter. I think about Elijah's first Christmas when he is only 8 months old and he has no idea what is happening, but he reaches for the wrapping paper with both little hands and everyone laughs. I think about Rosie at age 3 insisting that she needs to leave cookies for Santa and eating half of them herself before bedtime, and then looking at me with powdered sugar on her chin and asking me not to tell. I think about all of that, and then I look at this thumbs up from my son, and I feel something inside me go very quiet. I cry that afternoon. I am not ashamed to say it. I cry the way you cry when something breaks inside you. Not loud crying, just the quiet kind where the tears run down and you do not even bother wiping them because what is the point? I look around at my decorated house and my cold cinnamon rolls and my little wrapped presents, and I think this is what I have been reduced to. A thumbs up on Christmas Day. After everything. After all those years of keeping the peace and swallowing my hurt and making myself smaller and smaller so that Linda would have less of me to object to. After all of that, I am here alone on Christmas with a thumbs up on my phone screen and cold cinnamon rolls on the table and a cat who does not understand why I am crying, but presses himself against my leg anyway. But here is where things begin to turn. Patricia and I have been friends since the year she moves in next door, which is 22 years ago now. She is the kind of friend you cannot manufacture or plan for. She simply appears in your life at the right time and stays. We have been through a great deal together. She loses her husband 4 years after I lose mine, and we sit with each other through that grief the way only two women who understand it can. We go on a trip together to Savannah one spring, just the two of us, and we walk around those beautiful streets eating ice cream and laughing at nothing in particular, and I think that trip saves something in me that needed saving. She knows everything about my situation with Linda. Every detail. She listens without judgment, and she gives advice only when I ask for it. On that Christmas afternoon when she shows up at my door with wine and lasagna, she does not ask if I am okay because she already knows I am not. She simply comes. That is friendship. That is the real kind. My neighbor Patricia, who is 68 and has been my closest friend for 22 years, comes over that afternoon. She has seen my car in the driveway and knows I am alone. She brings a bottle of wine and a pan of lasagna, and she sits with me at my kitchen table, and she listens to me for 2 hours. She does not interrupt. She does not offer opinions until I am completely finished. She just listens with her whole self in the way that only a truly good friend can. And when I am done talking, she looks at me very carefully and she says, "Carol, you have been giving that woman power over you for a decade. It is time to stop." I do not fully understand what she means that night, but those words stay with me. I go to bed that Christmas night with Patricia's words turning over and over in my mind. You have been giving that woman power over you for a decade. I think about all the times I smile when I want to say something true. All the times I say it is fine when it is absolutely not fine. All the times I drive home alone with that familiar ache in my chest and sit in my car and feel like someone has made me a guest in my own family. I think about Elijah's 7th birthday party and me standing on that porch with a wrapped present and a smile plastered on my face. I think about a decade of keeping the peace while the peace slowly takes everything from me. I do not sleep well that night. I lie in the dark listening to Chester purring near my feet, and I think about what kind of woman I want to be for the rest of my life. I think about the version of me that keeps quiet and accepts whatever scraps of access I am given to my own grandchildren. And I think about another version. One who stands up. One who speaks clearly. One who stops apologizing for simply wanting to be a grandmother to her grandchildren. In January, when Marcus finally brings the kids over for our belated Christmas, something in me has shifted. I am warm with Elijah and Rosie, I always am, but I am different with Marcus. Quieter. More observant. I watch the way he barely makes eye contact with me. I watch the way he keeps checking his phone, waiting for some signal from Linda about how long this visit should last. I watch my grandchildren playing in my living room, and I think about how much of their lives I have already missed because one woman decides she does not like me and my son does not have the courage to stand up to her. Elijah shows me a drawing he makes at school, a picture of my house with me standing in the garden and Chester sitting on the porch. He says I draw you because I miss you, Grandma Carol. I hold that piece of paper and I feel something settle quietly inside me. Not anger exactly. Something steadier than anger. A decision. That January I do something I have never done before. I consult a family attorney. Not to sue anyone. Just to understand my rights as a grandmother. I live in Ohio and I need to know where I stand legally in terms of access to my grandchildren. The attorney explains the law to me clearly. She tells me that under certain circumstances grandparents in Ohio can petition for visitation rights. She tells me what conditions need to be present. She tells me what documentation strengthens such a case if it ever comes to that. I leave her office feeling something I have not felt in a very long time. I feel like I have options. I feel like I am not entirely powerless. I feel like the woman I used to be before years of keeping the peace wore her down into someone she almost does not recognize. I do not file anything. Not yet. But I start keeping a record. Every canceled visit. Every unanswered call. Every time the children tell me during our visits that Mommy says we cannot come over this weekend or Mommy says Grandma Carol is busy. I write it all down in a small notebook I keep in my bedside drawer. Dates and details. Quietly and carefully. I also start putting money aside specifically for legal fees if it ever becomes necessary. I am not planning an attack. I am preparing a defense. There is a difference between the two, and understanding that difference gives me a kind of calm I have not felt in years. I am not doing any of this out of bitterness. I am doing it out of love. Because those two children deserve a grandmother who fights for them even when the fight is quiet and invisible and looks from the outside like a woman simply going about her life. Meanwhile, I start filling my own life in ways I have been neglecting for a long time. I join a watercolor painting class at the community center. I have always wanted to try painting, and I have been putting it off for years, always telling myself I will get to it eventually. The first class I am nervous, and my painting looks like something a child makes on a rainy afternoon, but my teacher says that is exactly where everyone starts, and she says it with such genuine warmth that I relax, and by the third class I am actually enjoying myself. And by the sixth class, I paint a picture of my garden that my sister in Arizona tells me she wants to hang in her hallway. I start going to a book club at the public library, the very library system I work in for so many years, and I find a wonderful group of women who become real friends to me. We argue about books and laugh about life and share food at every meeting, and it is exactly the kind of company I need at exactly the right time. I start taking better care of my health, going for walks every morning, eating more carefully, sleeping properly. I plant a new section of garden in the spring with herbs I have never grown before. I rearrange my living room just because I want to change, and the new arrangement turns out to be better, and I wonder why I do not do it sooner. I call my sister in Arizona more often, and our Tuesday calls stretch from 30 minutes to sometimes 2 hours, and she tells me she is so glad I sound like myself again. I start doing things I want to do simply because I want to do them. I begin to feel like myself again. Not the version of myself that waits by the phone and holds my breath and tries to make myself small enough to avoid Linda's disapproval. The older version. The original version. The Carol who raises a son alone, who works 34 years and loves every day of it, who plants a garden and bakes bread and laughs loudly and knows her own worth. Marcus notices the change in me. I can see it on his face when he comes over in February with the kids for Rosie's birthday dinner. I make her favorite meal, chicken and mashed potatoes with a pink frosted cake, and there is a moment during the evening when Marcus sits across from me at the table and just looks at me for a moment with something unfamiliar in his eyes. I think it is the first time in a long time that he actually sees me. Not the soft, quiet mother he has learned to take for granted. Me. The real me. The woman who is still here and still standing and no longer interested in shrinking herself to make anyone more comfortable. After the kids go to watch a movie in the living room, he stays at the table and says, "Mom, are you doing okay?" I say I am doing very well, Marcus. Thank you for asking. He says you seem different. I say I am different. He is quiet for a while. Then he says I know last Christmas is not ideal. I say it is not. He looks uncomfortable. He starts to say something about how Linda's family has really been counting on them being there, and how he knows it is hard, but sometimes these things cannot be helped. I let him finish. Then I say quietly and clearly, "Marcus, I am not going to argue with you tonight because it is Rosie's birthday, and I want this evening to be about her. But I want you to know that I am no longer going to pretend that everything is fine when it is not. I love you and I love those children more than my own life. But I will not continue to accept being an afterthought in my grandchildren's lives. And I need you to understand that clearly." He does not respond right away. But he hears me. I can see it in his face. Something moves behind his eyes. He nods slowly. He says, "Okay, Mom. I hear you." And this time I believe him. 3 weeks after that conversation, something unexpected happens. Linda calls me directly. She never calls me directly. I almost do not answer because I think something must be wrong with the children. But I answer and she is on the line, and she is, for lack of a better word, stiff. Like someone who has been told to make a call she does not want to make. She says she wants to see if we can have me over for dinner the following Sunday. Just family. I say that would be lovely, thank you, Linda. The dinner is awkward. It is not warm. It is not some miraculous breakthrough where Linda and I suddenly become the best of friends. But it happens. And it has never happened before in all these years. She reaches out. That is new. And I decide to accept it gracefully because I understand that sometimes a small step in the right direction is still a step, and sometimes that is exactly where change begins. I believe Marcus has a real conversation with her after that birthday dinner. I do not know exactly what is said. I never ask. But something shifts in the household, and I am no longer being kept quite so far out on the edges. The visits become a little more regular. The calls start getting returned a little faster. Elijah calls me on his own one afternoon just to tell me something funny that happens at school, and I nearly cry from the simple normalcy of it. Rosie asks her father if Grandma Carol can come to her school play, and Marcus says yes, and I sit in the third row with a paper program in my hands, and I watch my granddaughter on that small stage with her paper crown and her serious little face, and I think I almost let someone take this from me. I almost let the fear of making waves cost me this exact moment. I am so glad I finally decide not to accept that. I am not going to tell you that everything is perfect now because it is not. Linda and I will likely never be close. There is too much history and too much unspoken feeling between us for that. There are still moments of tension, and there are still times when I sense that old familiar wall going up. But the cruelty has lessened. The exclusion has lessened. And that is more than I have a year ago. What I want to tell you, and this is the part one most want you to hear, is that the turning point is not when I get angry. It is not when I cry alone on Christmas with cold cinnamon rolls and a thumbs up on my phone. It is when I quietly decide to stop giving my power away. When I start seeing an attorney and learning my rights instead of just hoping things will improve on their own. When I start building a full and rich life for myself instead of structuring my entire emotional world around whether or not Linda will permit me access to my grandchildren that week. When I start speaking plainly to my son instead of softening every truth to protect his comfort. Power does not respond to tears. Power responds to someone who has quietly, calmly, and completely decided they will no longer be moved. I am that person now. I am her fully, and I am her without apology. There is something important I want to say about forgiveness. I am not a bitter person by nature. I do not enjoy carrying resentment around because resentment is heavy, and at 71 I have learned that you cannot carry heavy things and still move freely through your life. So I choose to put down the anger about what happens that Christmas. Not because what Linda does is acceptable. It is not. Not because Marcus handles it well. He does not. But because holding on to it does nothing for me and changes nothing for my grandchildren. What I choose to carry instead is the clarity that comes from that Christmas morning. The knowledge that I have been living too small for too long. The understanding that love sometimes requires you to be inconvenient, to ask for things directly, to say clearly what you need without apologizing for needing it. That is what I carry forward. That is what that Christmas gives me, even sitting alone with cold rolls and a phone screen and a cat pressing himself against my leg. My grandchildren are at my house 2 weekends ago. Elijah helps me plant the first seeds of the season in my garden and talks the whole time about a book he is reading at school. Rosie paints a watercolor picture of Chester, and it is now hanging on my refrigerator next to Elijah's drawing of me standing in the yard that he gives me in January. We make chocolate chip cookies and we eat too many of them, and we watch a movie and they fall asleep on the couch and I sit in my armchair in the lamplight looking at their sleeping faces, and I think this is it. This is what I protect. This is what is worth every hard conversation and every silent night and every small careful act of reclaiming my own dignity. These 2 sleeping children in my living room with cookie crumbs on their shirts and their little chests rising and falling in the quiet lamplight, and Chester curled up at Rosie's feet like he has always belonged there. This is everything I have. This is everything. Last Christmas I sit alone with cold cinnamon rolls and a thumbs up from my son. This Christmas I will make sure those cinnamon rolls are eaten warm at my own table, with the people I love sitting right beside me. And I will put on Christmas music, and I will look at every ornament on my tree, and I will feel my husband in the room with me the way I always do, and I will feel grateful. Not just for the people sitting at my table, but for the version of myself I finally decide to become. Tell me where you are watching from, and drop your city in the comments down below. And if you love your grandmother, or if this reminds you of someone who loves you the way I love my grandchildren, please leave a like on this video, subscribe so you never miss a story, and share this with someone who needs to hear it today. Thank you so much for being here with me. It means more than you know.